Hi there. In this video we are going to be taking a look at a computer that we had on this channel. What's on my fingernail? Paint. Awesome. That we had on the channel between 5 and 10 years ago. I think closer to 10 years ago, at the beginning of the channel basically. I will link that video in the description. I don't really know the state of this thing at the moment. I'm most likely thinking it's not running anymore, so I'm going to do my best to make it run again, and we will be installing Windows 11 on it. Let's see how that goes. This video is sponsored by PCBWay, and if I have known more about them, this project would have been easier, because as you will see in this long video, I've done some extreme modifications to some adapters, where I actually soldered some wires directly to some pins and made the housing out of hot glue. Yeah, really janky stuff. But with PCBWay I could have made a custom PCB, and not only that, but they can also do CNC machining, 3D printing, sheet metal fabrication and injection molding. So for example, a 3D printed housing instead of a hot glue made one would have been much better. So thank you again for supporting the channel PCBWay, and let's get to this long video with a really old computer that I really like. Most things are still here. What is not here is the VGA output. It had something that was coming from these pins and going there. But I have some DVI to VGA adapters, so most likely will it allow me to do that? I think it will allow me to do that. So as long as the components work, this thing might actually be in better shape than I thought. Still has the hard drive in it. I know that I put a cooler on the hard drive because I thought it will be overheating. 1 stick of memory, maybe we will add a bit more. Okay-ish. So maybe just try to start it at first and see what it does. Sorry, correction. It actually does have 2 sticks of memory in there, right deep in there, one, and the other is there. So yeah. As SATA ports, do we have more? Can we add some SSD? Not really, but we might be replacing this hard drive with an SSD. That could be interesting. And this hard drive, I could actually try to internally keep it connected on an SATA to USB adapter, because I see a USB port somewhere around there that's not occupied. Yes, it's USB 2, but for an old hard drive like this, should be enough. So we'll have storage. This isn't even connected anymore, the cooler itself. We will have storage and also SSD speed, because I'm going to get a cheap SSD and small for this thing. Data will stay on this, not on it. Only Windows will be on the SSD. Let's see if this works. Anyway, we'll have fun a bit with this. A few days later, upgrades are starting to come into the mail. Let's take the hard drive once again out. I did power on this thing just to make sure that the PCB itself, the motherboard is good, and it is good. I was even able to install Windows onto this thing, so that's great, but this will be just for data, not Windows. It's way too slow. Now I bought, where is it? Right in here, a Q9300 quad-core CPU, which is much better than the E8400 that we have in here. I need to blow the dust out of this thing a little bit, but first let me try and remove some more things. Also, we'll be upgrading the GPU itself, and I'm going to show you in a moment why. This thingy, while it's still working, is not a happy camper. If I could actually manage to get it out of here, it's kind of stuck. Come on. Come on, little guy. You can do it. So, yeah. Caps are starting to bulge again. I think I did replace this one at one point in time, if I remember correctly. But some corrosion is starting to happen in some areas of this board. Yes, it's working. It can be cleaned. It might work for a while, but it's just a 512 meg board. So, nah, not what it should be in 2024, even for really low stuff. Only if you use it for office and maybe web browsing, but on video playback you might get some trouble with this one also. So I got one. Let me show it to you. This little thing, it's an R5 340X 2 GB of RAM GPU with half a year of warranty for, I don't even know what's in dollars. Obviously less than $20, but yeah, anyway. This doesn't require additional power. It takes all the power from the PCI slot, so that is great. Our PSU is quite weak. We don't want anything with additional power. Also, it's single slot, so it will not touch the hard drive. Basically, it's same thickness as the one that we had in here before, maybe even thinner, which is even better. Yeah, overall, at least for low demanding stuff, this will be a great improvement. So that's one thing. Another thing, I found online some people were able to get at least 12 gigs of memory running on this thing. So we have two 2 GB sticks, 4 GB in there, and we'll be adding 2 more gigabytes. And this is how I got them, in a plastic bag, non-ESD protected one. So hopefully they did survive. This is what we got. Under $10 for one of these. In your country, prices will vary widely from what I'm telling you here, but I'm telling you what I paid for mine. And it seems they are coming from some Lenovo, which is actually good. Lenovo going into Lenovo once again. So we have the memory. Let's put that to the side. This thing has arrived. I pay, how much was it? $15, something like that. Intenso 128 gigabytes for Windows and programs. This will be way more than enough. Yes, this has an SATA eSATA port and 2 internal SATAs. We might use the external SATA for storage if we would want, but I decided to go a different route to only use internal stuff, because I'm not going to use this thing. And somebody could at a point in time decide, hey, but what is that cable plugged into the port and it's going back inside the unit? So I decided I will be using USB and some adapters to run the internal old mechanical 500 gigabyte hard drive on USB port. That's way more than enough for its share of storage that it needs to be doing, and it's everything kept internally. So there's that. Yeah, is there anything else? Obviously, if we are adding one more drive, we need one of these splitters. This one I already had lying around, and we'll be using it. Yes, it has 3 instead of, we only need to split into 2, but anyway, already had it once again. Needed to buy one of these things to run from USB internally that particular drive. but USB will not be giving it enough power because it's a 3.5 I think inch hard drive, and this thing is good only for 2.5 inch solid states and laptop mechanical hard drives. So, and they sent me this variant, although I paid for this, so I have no clue what's up with that. Bit of weirdness. I need to test onto which one of these two it's actually transmitting data, although I would expect the blue USB 3.1, and this is only for added power, but still, even with two of them, I don't think it would get enough power to run a bigger drive. So I will give it power again from splitting this thing, and I will actually only keep this part of it, and this will be completely removed. I will file it down basically. Yeah, it's gonna be ugly most likely, but this was extremely cheap, $2, $3 maybe, something like that. So yeah, I can afford to, in case it doesn't work, just say, yeah, okay, that's life. The CPU itself, how much did I pay for this? I think more than $20, not 25 but 20 something. But it's quite important for this upgrade to get a bit more life out of this computer, so probably this will be the first thing, because I hate to keep a CPU like this. I want to put it in this thing and make sure it's working. Also put the RAM in, put everything that's quick and easy to do, and then we will deal with splitting the SATA and getting USB to work for storage and stuff like that. But the simple things that we just plug in, I want to do that now, so they are out of the way and saving the computer. But first, let me blow out in the yard the dust out of this thing. Just wanted to add, the only downside to this board, it only has 2 display ports, so I needed to also buy for $3 I think an adapter from DisplayPort to VGA, because this will be used on a really old LCD monitor, but still old, with only VGA. I need to remove this thing to upgrade the CPU first. We have this right here keeping some wires in place. I'm going to get that out of the way for a moment. Here it is. And unplug the CPU fan from its header. Also make sure it's not under any other cables, that would suck. And here it is. Okay, some fluff on it. Let's get that out of the way. And now I do have some Phillips screws. This has a button on the other side. Press that button, it's marked with green, and then you can lift everything up. So we get way more room in here. This is kind of one SE. So I think we just undo 4 Phillips screws. Yikes. Be careful, the screws will fall, they are not captive, as I just learned. So 3, there must be another one in here somewhere, and I don't see it. Huh. Okay, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. Anyway, we need to clean the old thermal paste, both from the CPU and this. Getting ready to replace that, but want to point out, I found the lever also on this thing that basically locks with its bottom part right there to push it on the CPU. So I could have released this and the tension would have been much lower when I undid the screws. But and maybe I didn't even need to undo these things. Does it come out? Let's see. Opened up fully. Let's get this out of the way. Does it come out of there? Yeah, it comes out of there. Oopsie daisy. So don't undo this thing. And we are back. So this is fully to the back of it. Lift your CPU carefully, but still hold on to it to not drop it. just a tiny bit of pieces of leftover thermal paste. This is what was in there, E8400. And let me show you what we'll be putting in. And this is going in, so Core 2 Quad Q9300. And now we are getting ready to put this thingy back in. I'm searching for any sort of mark in this particular slot and I don't see it, so be back in a second. Just saw it, this corner is chamfered right there. Camera focus on the corner, that is it, and this is the mark. And also this has two indentations in here which make sure that you only are able to put it in like this. The socket itself is clean. Do not try to clean the socket. If there is anything in there, be extremely careful getting it out. If you bend or destroy one of those pins, you are done. It will no longer work. So rest it easily but firmly. Now it's in place. It has just a tiny bit of wiggle room in here, which is normal. Lower this thing and close the arm on it, making sure you lock it under this. So now our CPU is seated. I will also clean it one more time with alcohol and then apply thermal paste. Everything is ready, so let's apply some old trusty MX4. There are better thermal compounds out there, but this one is cheap and decent. I'm going to be putting an X in here. Presumably it's way too much, but this has a weird install procedure, the CPU cooler itself, so I'm not quite sure how this will distribute in there. So yeah, I know it's way too much. It's at least twice as much as it should be, but I have no freaking clue how this thing will rest in there at the end of the day. And I kind of forgot that I first need to be putting again this thing in, so I will put this and get back to you in a moment. And now obviously I see that we have this notch right here, so this lever has room to go, so you can change the CPU without taking this out. A bit late for me, isn't it? Anyway, now this thingy will slide with these corners under these big springs right here. This is a part that I don't like at all, but this is why they made these steps, to have room to bypass this thing. Fixes for a stupid design, but at the end of the day we need to work with what we have, don't we? So this is what I was saying. I don't really like how this mounts, because you don't come directly with it. You kind of squeeze it in there. So yeah, not sure how happy the thermal paste is with all of this, but anyway, it is what it is. Yikes. That was caught under something. Now seems to be stable. Kind of stupid design, but hopefully from how much thermal paste we put in there, we still have enough. Now obviously plug this thing right back in, and you can keep your cables together with this thingy. Come on, little guy, you can do it. Yikes. Rotate already. And it's done. We have upgraded everything. Everything is still plugged in. Everything, I mean, upgraded the CPU. Now I want to power this thing on and see if it's working, because normally before doing something like this you should be checking to have kind of the latest BIOS version installed, BIOS update, because some CPUs get updated and recognized later, in later version of the BIOS. So hopefully we have a new enough BIOS. If not, I put back the old CPU, update BIOS, put the new CPU in. We'll see. Close this thing right back up, at least temporarily, because we'll be doing some more memory upgrades and whatnot. Make sure you don't catch anything where it shouldn't be. In case it doesn't want to close, check why it doesn't want to close. It will not have a hard drive for the moment. I just want to see it starting up, and we'll be using the display port of its integrated GPU just to get a video out of it. Where did I put my cable? I have one of these, display port to HDMI, not with this. Come on, get out. Plug into my monitor and hope we get an image. Hey, how do you suppose you plug right in? Thing like this. Yes, like that. Hope for the best, because if not, that kind of sucks and more work needs to be done. I kind of didn't work with computers lately, so I forgot about some of these best practices. Oh, we don't have a power cable. I'll be back in a second. The GPU will be a little bit later. F1, F1, F1. Hey, don't be mad, please. Did I not press F1? Yeah, I did press. System summary. So, yeah, it's in. We have the CPU working and 4 gigs of memory. Okay, yeah, memory speed is a bit lower. These 4 gigs that are also already installed are only capable of this. On such a computer, that's not that important, and we have a dedicated GPU and makes it even less important. Okay, so that was yikes. Exit, let's say save changes and exit, and let it do its thing, then shut it off and put the memory also in, and then the SSD. And in my opinion, the biggest hurdle has passed. This is off and power is fully off. So now, not just from its button, it's disconnected completely. Let's see about the memory. I'm unlocking the unpopulated slots because it seems they were locked without memory in them. So just pulling back the tabs at the end of the memory sticks. Let me try and show you. I mean, these ones, they were like this, and they need to be like this so we can insert memory. Be careful about this notch. Oh yikes, I just grabbed onto the case by mistake with my wedding ring. This is how memory should be going in. Just check the contacts. If you see crap like that on the contacts, clean it with a bit of paper and maybe a bit of alcohol. So be back in a second. Oh yikes, I just noticed this. This is really bad. I need to clean it with alcohol and hope this is just surface corrosion. And at the other end, maybe it's just dust with humidity, who knows. And here we have the warranty sticker. Didn't they see this when they put it in there? Cleaned as best as I could with alcohol, but I still don't really like it. I'm sure this is still working. They must have tested it before putting a warranty sticker on it. I think it has 2 years of warranty or something like that, so not really an issue, just an inconvenience. But I will also put a bit of contact cleaner just to make sure that corrosion will not continue to do any harm. Anyway, it's that cheap that it's literally almost not worth dealing with the warranty in case it fails in a year or something. Okay, so insert it in there, press on the ends. When installing memory for the first time, I actually lock and unlock a few times just to make sure that everything is quickly clean and making a good contact, because these slots haven't seen memory for maybe since this motherboard was made. I don't know if they were ever populated or not. So better to get some friction in there to make sure there's no layer of anything. Anyway, it will tell us quite quickly if we start to get any errors. We'll know, hey, memory problem. Close this thing right up. Again, make sure that everything is in place. Does it not close? Probably doesn't like something. Yeah. We have more memory now, so wires don't have as much room to go. Close this and power it again. And we have image F1, but doesn't mean we have everything recognized until we go into the BIOS and see 12 gigs in there. Some say they even got 16 gigs with newest BIOSes. 12 gigs. So yeah, it seems everything is working. CPU and RAM. Let's put in the SSD now. Again, escape here, save changes and exit, so it doesn't search again for how much memory it has. It recognizes it directly. And let's get to this little guy. So what I'm thinking, double-sided tape, and I'm going to stick it in here to this wall, because we are not using this right here. It's an old PCI, not PCI Express, PCI slot. We are only using the PCI Express for a GPU, so if I stick it in here, I don't think it bothers anything. Let me just make sure nothing gets in there, so somewhere around here it can stay without issues. Cable should be coming to it. Ah, great, it's reversed. Let's rotate it somehow. I think we can deal with this. And also, what? That's weird. Let's... Ah, no, it finally went in. So if it first doesn't go in, push until you get it in. That sounded weird. Anyway, we need to split this, because I'm also trying to keep the old mechanical drive in here, which will be run through USB port right here, although it has an external SATA, so that could also be done, but I will be using USB with a few adapters. There's a separate video for this machine, will be linked in the description. Let's plug this thingy in, and yeah, we need again double-sided tape in place here. Make sure it doesn't bother anything. It will be going under the GPU, both this cable and the other cable will somehow be going under the GPU, and it will still be enough, in my opinion, somehow like this, to reach the other drive, which will be around here. So yeah, not ideal situation, but it's doable. Double-sided tape it is. Just stuck some double-sided tape to the side of the case after I cleaned the dust enough for it to stick, and now when I have the perfect position, I will stick it in there, avoiding the label, because if I ever need to take it out, if I put it on the label, it will rip it apart. And it's in here for better or for worst. Let's blow the dust after off the old mechanical drive, and I'm going to stick it in here because I want it to be also powered on, just to make sure this gives enough power for both of them to be running. I will deal with the cabling part and the direction where the cables must go later. Damn it, this is also rotated. Why does everything need to be rotated compared to what it would be ideal? I love USB-C connectors, they go either way, anywhere, anytime. This will most likely be coming under here, but we do have this, which was actually not used lately, so I might take it off in case it's creating more trouble than it's worth, because we might not have enough room for everything in here, although we seem to be having at the moment, but there's no GPU yet. So yeah, remains to be seen. Something still off. I think cable doesn't allow it. Yeah, cable was not allowing it. We might be able to go on top of the GPU, and everything still seems to have enough room. They are not necessarily happy, but they do have enough room in here. We'll see. Although this could actually go even under the GPU, just barely enough. Anyway, that's about it. Is it closed? Yeah, it's closed. Let's put Windows on it. Should be way faster than when I put Windows on the drive itself, because that was painfully slow a few days ago. F12 like crazy, smash it, and hopefully it will show us the boot menu. Yeah, and it does show us. So this is what I want to boot from. This is the SSD, so it's in. This is the optical drive. It's working actually, unexpected. So let's boot from this and put Windows on the SSD. Great. Just want to mention, I have a separate video that shows how to put Windows 11 on any old computer like this, and also use a local account, not online account. That will be in the description if you want it. In here I will show you after I get to the setting up of partitions and installing actually starts copying files on the drive. And here we are. This is the SSD, a single partition. It's too small for anything else, doesn't make sense to spread its space, so it creates a system one. We don't touch that. Drive 1 is the thumb drive that we are booting from to install Windows, so on partition 2, next, and it's copying files. But yeah, we have just a USB 2 connection for the thumb drive, although the thumb drive is obviously USB 3, so it's going to be slow because of the thumb drive, because of the USB 2 connection, sorry. That's the limiting factor, not the SSD in this particular moment at all. When we are booting into Windows, that's the SSD, so we'll see about that a bit later. And we are running Windows 11. Let's see what is recognized here. Perfectly recognized the CPU itself. Great. Memory, perfectly recognized. 12 gigs. And SSD, the same. Where does it show the size? Here it shows it. And yeah, this is the size of a 128 gig formatted drive. So yeah, everything running perfectly. I'm going to do a speed test on this drive, just for lols, and yeah, make sure all the drivers are installed and whatnot, as you would do on a fresh Windows 11 install on any computer, new or old. So I did a test on the SSD itself to check the speeds. I forgot this this desktop has only SATA 2, so this is saturating SATA 2. The random reads and writes are really good, SSD level, so those are what they should be. And this is what matters the most for the snappiness of the system. This rarely happens. You rarely have something like this when just using normally a computer directly sequential reads and writes. So yeah, still I would still upgrade without hesitation if I would have remembered it's a SATA 2, but yeah, we cannot get the maximum that the SSD can do in sequential read and write. And that's about it. Let me see why it cannot install one of the drivers. That's weird. I have two missing drivers. I need to install them myself. Rest of them actually installed. All drivers installed. Both of the missing ones were for Intel management interface. So installed those, and also installed a new one for sound, because the one that Windows 11 installed was not outputting sound, and I didn't want to deal with it. Yeah, we could find all the drivers on Lenovo's website just by searching for drivers for M58P. So they are still there after all these years, but they are for Windows 7. Does not matter, work on Windows 11 too. So yeah, that's about it. With everything running perfectly, next step is to plug this in and see if it works, because it has normal size bracket and I need a low profile one, so I will be modifying this, which will say bye-bye warranty, a 6-month warranty. So I need to know for a fact that this is working before doing that modification, so I will plug it and not close the case, just to see everything, that everything is fine. GPU plugged in, as you can see, hanging out, not touching anything, so also plugged into the back of it. Let's see if it will give an image when we power it on. Hopefully we can install drivers and everything is working right. So we have an image. First thing is okay. Did not release any sort of blue or black smoke. Is this spinning? Hard drive is also spinning. The mechanical one, but it's not connected to data. So yeah, the GPU seems to be working. Do we have fun spin? Yeah, we have fun spin. So up until now all is good. Let's install a driver for it and this kind of stuff. Probably Windows will directly install one for us. Windows Update already found drivers, which is perfect. It's downloading, it will install. So R5 340X 2 GB, R7 430. And if I search for this part number, it's an R7 430, which is tiny bit less powerful than the other one that I thought I will be getting and I paid for, but it maximum consumes 50 watts instead of 75, which for this weak PSU is a blessing. The performance difference is minimum. Also, the memory bus is 128 instead of 64 bit, so that's better actually. And on their website, this thing is $10 more expensive than the one that I paid for. So I guess I don't have a warranty, but I got a better card than I was expecting. Let's hack that. Just noticed something. Oh, the irony. Last time when I worked on this computer, I also modified a bracket for the GPU. But yeah, this one doesn't work on the new GPU, so again we are modifying stuff. The original brackets of the system, I left them here a ton of years ago. So now I actually need one of them, because the other GPU actually at a point in time had a VGA output that was using the second one. This one will not need it, so I need to get one of them out. So the bracket obviously is off. This is how it looks. It was impossible to bend it lower than this because of the way the GPU is held onto the bracket. It's not the old style where it has these screws holding it. It's just like this directly on the PCB, so that was my limit. Needed to cut a little bit of this because I saw the GPU was not sliding all the way down into the socket. This was a bit too long. That's weird, but yeah. So now let's attach it back and see how this works. And it's in. And it's level. Ports are accessible. That tongue is not hitting. This is just a tiny bit too high. But considering we have this plastic variant that's keeping it in there, I think we are more than okay. And if it has some limiters to not allow it too much wiggling, so in this case it's perfect. But if you do any of these modifications, any component that you destroy on that PCB, your card is done, is destroyed. So tread carefully, be really careful. Or better, just buy the proper single slot, low profile card from the start. And it's locked in place. I have no idea if I pressed too much on this when pushing in, that it has a stress mark on it. It's not even the one on the GPU, doesn't matter at all. And finally, a good while later, this thing has arrived. I think they ordered it directly from China. For how long it took, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So at this point, already know that this works directly in USB 2. This is just to give it more power, but we will not be using this, it will be cut off. This works in USB 2, and you know, you should be going together, no? Okay. This plug-in into the motherboard, this into a hard drive like this, just as a proof of concept. And if this is working, then we are starting to do some modification, because we only need to keep data part of it and power part of it needs to go, because we are giving that drive power from somewhere else. But now if I look at it, I might have a problem. I might need to be cutting deeper into this thing. So I first might actually need to remove its cover. This idea seemed way better initially than it is now. Probably I should have just gone with the external SATA adapter to internal SATA and be done with it, but it's a bit late for that now, isn't it? After a bit of measuring, I can tell you there's no power, this is why I'm using metal. This is directly connected to this from the PCB, from the motherboard. This is also directly connected to this from the motherboard. The only thing that's not connected together are these two. So by connecting these two together, I think this stupid cable, which does connect them through the cable together directly, direct link inside of here in the shielding on the cable, is telling the motherboard, hey, I have something original from Lenovo plugged in. So now let's see what happens if this will work. I might have gotten it a bit wrong. I think it's waiting between this one and this one a contact, but because this is connected to this and this is connected to this, when I connect these two together, we indirectly make a contact between this and this, and it's the same thing. It should work. And it's freaking working. Hard drive is recognized just by having that right there, connecting two pins. To tell this motherboard, hey, you have something plugged in there, start using that. And it's going like this, but a USB only gives enough power for a small drive like this, not for this huge thing. So now we must hack into this. That's gonna be fun, not. As you can see, I'm bravely chopping at this. It has the molded outside rubbery layer and the thicker and stronger internal plastic layer. First I'm going to get this one off and then deal with the internal one. At any point there's a chance I break something and this will totally fail, but that has never stopped me. So let's see what we can do. Using this little guy to chop away. First level completed, but this is where it gets dangerous. I will cut this away. The additional one, this doesn't transmit data, only power, still not enough for a big drive. And look at this little resistor or capacitor, whatever it is, how it sits there. So this is also molded onto the PCB, but hopefully it can peel away also slowly. It seems to be able to peel away, but who really knows? We'll see. Try it again like this, but I don't like where this is going at all. So I think I will file down the plastic on the edges until I get to the PCB, and hopefully this can peel off in two directions. I think, I hope. And we can see the PCB. tried not to go into it too much. Only here I touched it a little bit deeper, but it should be on the side that we also want to cut. Actually, hopefully we can cut it. And on the other side is quite okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can spread this. And it's clean, and as you can see here, even the part that I would need to cut out is fully populated. I don't know why I thought that it's going to be much simpler electronics in this, because it makes sense. It has a full USB to SATA controller right here, converter, whatever you want to call it, and the supporting circuitry for it. Presumably this is dealing with power on this side, and this might be a little bit of a clock. So I just need to power this thing on once again to make sure it's still working. And if it's still working, well, let me explain. This blue thing will be fully unsoldered and fully removed. We don't care about it anymore. This will be fully cut, and this will be spared. I'm not using it anymore. It remains as is. It's a working cable. Woohoo! That is something that's going to happen, nothing that I can do about it, and I'm so far away from the original plan that at this point only pure stubbornness and I'm doing this, it's keeping me going, and I'm just doing this out of spite for this whole thing. So yeah, what I want to do, chop chop. We are still anyway running at USB 2 speeds, and this has USB 2 written on it, so I have no clue if it's actually a USB 2 device and it was just marketed as USB 3. That doesn't even matter at this point. I could actually search for this little name on the circuitry and see if it's USB 2 or 3. I will put that on the video for you to see. Anyway, so this chop chop. This thing is an old audio cable from a computer that I cut one of the connectors, and I will cut this also, and I will directly connect these wires to this. So we are basically not needing this anymore. And something else, this thing, again, we are chopping it, and we are directly soldering the SATA data part to the PCB itself and plugging into the hard drive. Yeah, let's see how that goes. Up until now everything went perfectly, didn't it, with this weird conversion. Still working. Chopped into this little thing, and I think it was the most therapeutic thing I've done in a while. So they had the same way of covering both ends. I like their consistency. And now I'm just going to cut the wires. This I can reuse in other projects. It's a perfectly fine USB 3.0 connector type A, and the wires in there will be connected directly to this. Just want to point out, I think it's actually USB 3, and this is the side with the 4 USB 2 wires, and this, although it says USB 2, are the rest of the wires needed for USB 3. And these two things that were giving it more power were just soldered on top of the other wires, one here and one here. So what I can say by that is yikes, because as far as I know you are not supposed to parallel up different USB ports, because they might not be 100% at the same voltage, just a tiny bit of difference, and they are fighting each other. So we have all the USB 2 wires soldered. Plug them into this in the correct order of this thing. Check again the connections just to be sure, and then we will be putting some hot glue on all of this and trimming these things to levels that they cannot touch each other, the USB 3 things. Haha, still working. And this is done and protected with hot glue. So now let's get rid of the blue connector. I'm disassembling again one of the connectors, and I will directly solder the pins, making sure I have the right orientation at the end of the day. And I think I'm done. And again, I kept the correct orientation of this thing. At the end of this we will have exactly, come on, give me some light, exactly the same orientation. Just as an idea, from USB only the electronics will get power and data will be going through this like that, basically between the hard drive and the motherboard, and the big drive will be getting power from these wires directly from the power supply, so not through USB. USB will be just powering this thingy to do the translation. And it's working. First layer is on. Probably I will put maybe another layer on this side, and for sure obviously on the other side which is not covered yet. If you ever do anything like this, do it on paper that is impregnated with wax. Normally that's the paper that stickers are put onto, and then you can remove it instantly without any issue whatsoever. Now let's fill this crater right here. And it's completely sealed. Now just wait for this to fully harden and we can put this into the computer. And it's finally connected. Now let me gently close this and find room for this when it closes. Also for this, make sure they don't enter the fan of the GPU itself. That would suck. And it's sitting in here way below the level. It's basically perfect. Nothing into the GPU fan. This thing is a bit tense, but it's mostly tensed from here because it's putting pressure on this, but the double-sided tape is holding it without absolutely any issue. The owner doesn't want this fan that I put many years ago under this hard drive to keep it cool, doesn't want it plugged in because it's making a bit more noise. This is a decently silent system and that is making a bit more noise, but also this is just for long time storage, so this will spin down, not heat up, which is perfect because this is doing all the heavy lifting. Let's power this thing and it should be fully working and we should be quite done with it. And it's working, fully recognized right here. Let's see, speed test. Yes, it's really slow compared to what this drive could do. Probably about 3 times faster it should work. But do we care? No, this is for storage. We have an SSD for speed. Yep, it's slow, it's USB 2, but it's working, it's storage, it's there. And we decreased the power consumption by lowering the power consumption of the GPU with 25 watts, which is perfect. And we increased it by adding an SSD and 2 more RAM sticks and actually a beefier processor. We might have increased the power consumption a little bit, but I don't know, 20 watts total or something like that, which I think the power supply can handle. So yeah, so 12 gigs of memory, quad core CPU. Finally we see the D drive and the SSD, the R7 430 GPU, and how much RAM does this have? It should have 2 gigs. Yep, it has 2 gigs. This little guy will stay in use for a few more good years. Yes, it's somewhat weak. Actually, it is weak for 2024, but for what it needs to be doing, which is mostly web browsing, newspapers reading, articles reading, watching YouTube videos, and maybe a bit of office work, this thing can still handle it. It's silent, it's working, it's not a ton of money. You gotta love it. Really gotta love it. So yeah, basically that's about it for this video. Hope it helps you. And yes, we did put a Windows 11 license on this thing. Don't forget, it has Windows 11 working on it perfectly. Anyway, that's about it for the video. Again, hope it helps you, in which case please give it a like, check out my other videos, and as always, see you in the next one. See ya next time, little system. Bye.